He's the MD of Rucha Engineering Private Limited, Aurangabad, and they have a group turnover of around 160 US dollar, 160 million US dollars, and export across the world. He is an iconic figure in a Marathwada business community and holds various positions in the society and also an active member of various industrial associations. He's a founding member and a board member of Marathwada Auto Cluster, MAC, and he is, am I audible to everyone? He is recently
Yes.
elected as a vice president of Maharashtra Chamber of Commerce and Agriculture, MACCIA. He is a vivid speaker and has delivered lectures at various institutions and associations in Maharashtra and also all India level. It is a pleasure to welcome Mr. Umesh this week for eGrowth Expert Talks. In this Expert Talks, expert interaction, he will speak on COVID, automotive, and way forward. So I again request all of you to welcome a warm welcome to Mr. Umesh Dashrathi. And sir, it is all. Sorry for.
I think everyone, please go on mute. Those who are traveling or somewhere else, please go on mute.
So warm welcome to Mr. Umesh, sir. It is now. I request you to take the I'll make you the host also, and you can start the presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Virenji. It's really nice and a great pleasure to be here. First of all, I apologize for last time. Unfortunately, I could not join for some personal reasons. But yes, this time I again got an opportunity. So thanks a lot for giving me that opportunity again. Today, I would like to discuss certain points on how this COVID is related to automotive and what is the way forward in automotive. In this particular thing, there is a small presentation that I try to present. Shall I do my okay? That's great. That's great. Now, in this particular thing, really speaking, automotive sector, even otherwise, is going through a lot of turbulences and changes as such. COVID-19 also has an additional impact on automotive sector, and there are a lot many things which are coming up in automotive sector in very recent time. Next, please. The presentation is in. This is just an index for the presentation, wherein I would just like to talk something about the history of epidemics, because as the epidemic is hitting our life like anything, there are a lot of turbulences and changes, and lot many things are happening. So just a small history about epidemics and certain normals and abnormals, coupled with history of automotive, because automotive also has a very interesting history. Also, electric vehicle also has a very nice history to listen. And after that, I would just like to talk certain things on how this future of automotive industry is going to come. And it's, of course, automotive industry is also coupled with manufacturing. So certain small points about manufacturing industry also, or future of manufacturing also. While saying so, just let me tell you one thing very clearly, that apart from COVID, even otherwise, automotive is going through a lot many changes. So COVID definitely has an impact on these changes in automotive. It had accelerated certain things, it had decelerated certain things. But it's not that everything in automotive is driven by only COVID. There are other factors which are driving automotive industry. Next slide, please. Coming to this history of epidemic, it has really a very interesting history per se. Epidemic is not new to mankind. Epidemic is a periodical thing, and it is happening quite often. Up to 17th century, plague was the most epidemic thing which was hitting frequently to mankind. And most of us might be remembering that Surat plague, which was something which made a big buzz. And after taking good lessons from that, Surat is cleaned like anything, and now it is one of the cleanest city. But the plague was hampering time and again to mankind. In 1793, yellow fever was found in Philadelphia in USA, which has taken 5,000 lives. And that was probably one of the major epidemic, specifically in a very small area of Philadelphia. But it had given a lot of, a lot of thrust in those days. In 8990, influenza virus attacked in Russia, and that caused flu, wherein 10 million, that is almost 1 crore people died in that episode of flu. In 1916, polio was hit in New York, and of course there is no full-fledged record that how many people died of polio, but we know for sure how polio was affecting even when we were child. The polio doses were there, and even till date, we are trying to eradicate it, and we have almost eradicated. But of course, in last year also we heard one news. But barring that, it is quite under control. In 18, the real hit of epidemic was in 1918 to 20. These 2 years were really, really very disastrous. Of course, these years were the years of First World War. In those days, in Europe, that very famous Spanish flu came in picture, which had taken 10 crore lives. We just can't believe this, but yes, it was very, very, very bad episode in mankind. And of course, these records of 10 crores also has a little slurry side of it, because it was the time of First World War, and this also includes probably the deaths which had happened as effect of that World War. But yes, the number was pretty big in 57, 58. China.
Can others please go on mute? Those who are traveling, sorry. Atul, can you put others on mute, please? I don't have the rights. Thank you so much. Sorry, sir. You have to unmute, sir, and then start. Yeah.
My voice is clear?
Very clear now.
Okay, thank you. So I just talked about Spanish flu, and in 57, 58, there was a bird flu which hit China, and there also almost 1 million lives till date this bird flu had taken. In 1981, many of us might be remembering the HIV episode. It started from Africa, and almost till date it had taken say 3.5 crore lives, and still it is on. And it is said that in African continent, more than 30-35% of the people are HIV positive. Very recently, just 10 years back, swine flu hit Mexico, which took again 5 lakhs lives. And 16, Ebola erupted in Africa, which has taken more than 11,000 lives. Why I was talking on this epidemic is, it is just to understand that today's epidemic is not that anything new is happening on this earth. It is happening periodically. It is happening every now and then. Most of the times it is related with hygiene. Most of the times it is related with some imbalance in nature. So probably the only way to stay away from such epidemics is to keep hygiene and to keep nature alive. Next slide, please. Whenever we see this epidemic, we see that there is some carriers, one or other carrier to this epidemic. For plague, the rats were the carriers, mosquito were carrying yellow fever, and then polio, it was coming out of this solid waste and hazardous waste, so on and so forth. Everything had a carrier. The abnormal thing in this corona episode is the carrier is human being, and there were probably, that is what is the abnormal thing. Otherwise, we were killing rats, we were killing mosquitoes, we were taking care of solid waste, we were taking care of birds, so on and so forth. but this time it is passing through passing very heavily through human beings. So that is becoming a new abnormal, specifically this time in Corona, and probably that is one of the reasons why we are scared too much. But yes, it is a phase in human life, and we will have to take care of it. Everyone will have to take care of it of his own. Next, please. Now coming to automotive, this automotive history is really very interesting history. The first automotive was it was a prototype which was say produced in 1672, and that has happened in China, and it was a steam-based engine, and it was prototype again. So 1672 was the first prototype made, which was a steam engine. In 1769, it took almost 100 years to come to a full-fledged steam-powered engine, which was produced in France by Nicolas Joseph. That was also a steam engine. In 1804, the first IC engine came in picture, which was done by a Franco-Swiss person whose name was Isaac de Rivaz, and the fuel was hydrogen. It was not petrol, which is being used today very abundantly, but it was a hydrogen, and probably that was the reason, because hydrogen using hydrogen as a fuel is very tedious thing. Hydrogen being highly flammable. And nothing has happened almost for 83 years. And in 1887, Carl Benz, who is the owner and founder of Mercedes-Benz, he started productionizing a IC engine vehicle which was using gasoline. And you can see the picture of the first buggy which he has manufactured. So that was really the productionization, the beginning of productionization of IC engines, which was then converted into mass production by Henry Ford in 1908. If you see the prototype to productionization period, it was almost 200 years. So those who are related with automotive sector probably can understand, because nowadays in any automotive company, we demand for a few months, and from say prototype to productionization, whereas in the initial phase it has taken 200 years. Next slide, please. Similarly, electric vehicle also is very interesting thing to say know and understand. In 1828, the first automotive electric motor and prototype electric vehicle was say invented by Hungarian guy, Mr. Jedlik. In 1832, it was a carriage, which was goods carrying electric motor, which was invented in Scotland. In 1835, it was a small-scale electric car. In 1837, it was a locomotive, and that electric locomotive, is very successful, and it is still till date being used, because electricity can be supplied on the rails. That is, as it is running on a fixed path, electricity also can be supplied. So there is no issue about batteries. So this electric vehicle, which is a locomotive, is very popular till date. And since it means till last decade, the electric vehicles were not being popularized too much. We should just understand, in 1837, first electric vehicle was successful, but till almost up to 2000, there was hardly anything which was happening. Again, incidentally, this is something close to 200 years, 175 years productionization to say prototyping to productionization. Next, please. And here is an Indian auto story. Euro norms started in Europe in January 2000. BS4 came in enforcement in India in April 2010 in 13 cities. After that, in October 2010, see the irony. In April 2010, it was BS4, and in October 2010, India had introduced Pan-India BS3, that is Euro 3 norms. So it was going reverse, going in the reverse cycle. BS4 was introduced in April 2017 across India. And then immediately in 2020, we have skipped to BS5, and pan India, we have introduced BS6, which is just last year or hardly 1 year back. So we were not doing anything up to 2010. And then after, even in 2010, for 7 years, we hardly did anything. And after 2017, just in merely in a span of 3 or 4 years, we have reached to BS6. So that is a kind of Indian automotive industry. That is a kind of turbulence Indian auto industry is going through. Yeah, next. I hope I mean those who are into automotive industry can really understand the pains of switching over from 4 to 5 to 6, so on and so forth. Now coming to the product, future of products, automotive products in Indian industry, the first and most important product which is going to get a hit is the IC engine. And IC engine manufacturing or quantities will decline in times to come. And what I'm talking will happen only in this decade, nothing more than this decade of 2021 to 2030. IC engine ancillaries, there are very high number of IC engine ancillaries across the country, and all of them will be impacting adversely. So this will be a transition to watch unless and until the IC engine ancillaries change themselves to a great extent. The survival in coming 10 years will be really very difficult. Service sector, as IC engines has almost 5,000 components, and that will get replaced by electric vehicle, which has hardly 150 components. Naturally, the service sector, which is highly dependent on IC engines, that will be declining in a big way. Two-wheeler industry will see a big change because specifically those who are using two-wheelers commuting inside the city, those who are using two-wheelers which don't travel more than 35, 40, 50 kilometers in a day, they will be switching over to electric vehicles, electric two-wheelers, and these electric two-wheelers will be manufactured by Perchurant or Mushroom two-wheeler companies. It will not be a wonder if we can get a two-wheeler kit ready to assemble, and in whatever color, size, shape, design that we want, that will be available off the shelf in some mall or in some shop. Sorry, just excuse me. So it will be available in some mall or shop, and we can buy it in a customized way. This is what is happening in China today. China is two-wheeler industry in China is something like this. There are n number of two-wheeler manufacturers. So presently in India, there are some 4, 5, 6 two-wheeler manufacturers who are ruling. It will be interesting to watch how they take the transition, and that can become a really good case studies. So overall employment in auto sector will be impacted adversely. Sorry. Yeah, please, next slide. Coming to electric vehicles, as I told, majority of the two-wheelers specifically used for commuting, they will be converted to electric vehicle. Charging stations will be a new upcoming business or emerging business. Why we had just seen that almost for 100 years there was hardly any development specifically into electric vehicle. One of the major reason for that was energy storage capacities of the then batteries. The then batteries were the best batteries were lead acid batteries, and energy storage capacity of lead acid batteries was limited. As soon as these lithium ion batteries came in picture, the size was reduced, the weight was reduced, and that energy storing capacity is increased. So naturally, electric vehicles started coming. We are able to see the electric vehicles in market. but there will be lot many innovations going on, specifically for this electric vehicle batteries, or specifically for energy storage capacity of the batteries, and ultra capacitors and hydrogen cells. It is all the time possible that one good breakthrough for capacitors and hydrogen cells will be taking this electric vehicle industry to next level. Even today, there are certain limitations. We hear that this four-wheeler has 250 kilometers range. Normally, any four-wheeler which is available in market has a range of at least 1,000 kilometers. The day we get this solution, probably the electric vehicle industry will definitely go to next level. Undoubtedly, one of the offshoot of electric vehicles will be pollution control. And of course, there are also studies going on that whether with this Euro 6 norms coming in picture, whether the electric vehicle pollution is better or whether this BS6 pollution is better. They are almost comparable. Means, of course, there will be little here and there. But yes, there is a good control of good control of pollution, specifically by Euro 6 norm vehicles also. Next, please. Autonomous vehicles are again one of the very interesting thing to watch, and that will be bringing lot many radical changes into automotive industry. Autonomous, in simple terms, whatever we call as driverless cars, they are nothing but the autonomous vehicles, where lot many sensors are fitted, and it drives itself using these sensors and these kind of things. Now, specifically in developed countries, autonomous vehicles, use of autonomous vehicle has already started. Means I personally had seen autonomous vehicles flying on road, specifically in Pittsburgh, in US, and it's very interesting to watch that there is no driver, and somebody is calling a vehicle on his mobile, and vehicle coming in front of him, and he is sitting inside vehicle and getting himself dropped at wherever required. One of the important offshoot of this particular thing is VR, that is vehicle on road efficiency will increase like anything, because vehicle will be on road for much more for a very long time. Presently, what really happens is we take our car, maybe if it is a chauffeur driven car, chauffeur brings the car at home or brings it out of our garage, and then it takes to your office, which is a travel of around 1 hour. And then you are sitting in your office for 8-10 hours, and then the car is standing below your office or in parking area for 8-10 hours. Then again you go home. It takes another 1 hour, say maximum, and again the car is parked. So a vehicle is on road only for 2 hours, and balance 22 hours it is completely standstill. With this autonomous kind of vehicle, this will not happen. The vehicle can be on road for 24 hours. So naturally, number of vehicles on road will decrease, because one vehicle can be on road for 24 hours, and it can save a lot many vehicles coming on road. So this will also decrease the vehicle density on road. This will also decrease the requirement of infrastructure of roads and bridges and so on and so forth. So these autonomous vehicles has a capacity to bring in radical change in the overall commuting of the society. Next. Drone. Now I think drone is, everybody knows what drone is, and we also know that many pizza companies are trying to utilize drones for deliveries of pizza. It will not be a wonder that other companies who are into or who want to transfer material from their place to customer's place, they will start using drones. The day is not far off, and it's very convenient thing. Drone, it can say fly in one single line, what we call as a crow line. It can take minimum amount of time, very precise location it can identify, and come back in practically very less time. So the day is not far off when all deliveries will start taking place through drones. The day is also not far. Whatever picture that you are seeing on right hand top corner, that picture is about that is of a passenger drone. The trials are going on, and lot many good trials are being taken in Dubai. Many of you might also have seen certain say videos on WhatsApp. So the day is not far off where even the passenger transport will start happening with a drone. There will be a challenge of traffic jams in skies. So I think we need to be ready. We need to be say cautious on how the things will be moving, because whenever changes come, whenever the radical changes come, they come very fast. This we have witnessed in case of mobile. This we have witnessed in case of televisions. Whenever the convenience increases, whenever the cost decreases, the changes are bound to happen. And probably automotive sector is witnessing that change through so many technology products also. Next, please. Artificial intelligence is taking its toll on everything. Artificial intelligence is coming in a big way. Just like software boom had been there in 90s, probably this decade will be of artificial intelligence, and it will be reaching to its peak. We are going to witness lot many wonders with this AI, specifically into automotive sector. Even today, it is flooded with AI systems, and lot of big things are going to happen in this area also. Next, please. Sensor industry is one of the upcoming industry. It has a very bright future. Those who are looking for some other products, those who are looking for diversification, those who are looking for their careers, sensor industry is an industry to watch, and everyone should definitely think this as one of our option, because we know what government, even Indian government, is doing lot many things for sensors as well as chip industry, electronic chips. So this is one of a important area where one can have a very nice career. Yeah, next, please. Now, this was all about the products in automotive, but at the same time, today automotive world is also a manufacturing industry. Automotive industry is also a full-fledged manufacturing industry, and there are lot many things, lot many changes those are going to take place in automotive manufacturing also. Now here probably the pandemic has one of an impact that automation and robotics will increase. Means it even otherwise automotive industry was inclining towards automation and robotics, but now as an offshoot of this pandemic, this area will be flourishing in a big way. The skilled and repetitive jobs will definitely go on automotive and robotics. Wherever skill is involved, there everybody wants to reduce human dependence, because human skills has even otherwise has its own limitations. Of course, there are certain things which cannot be replicated even today, but whenever it comes on physical working, the human skills and repetitive jobs can definitely be done by robotics and automation. At the same time, unskilled jobs for which normally we utilize labors, like say transfer of material from one place to another, that also will be taken by moving robots, or what we call as auto-guided vehicles. So that there is minimum requirement of manpower, and this is typically why I'm saying this pandemic is taking this toll on the industry. Next. Presently, work from home has become name of the game. Means in this pandemic, what really is the blessing in disguise, specifically for IT industries or specifically for white-collared workers, is work from home. People can put their setup in home, and they can work from there, and the efficiencies are increased due to that. The time, everybody is getting more personal time. Lot many things, lot many good things that happened this to this work from home. But at the same time, manufacturing industry uh, manufacturing industry has limitations for work from home. They have to go on shop floor and do the things. But now probably Internet of Things is going to take care of all whatever is happening on shop floor. Probably any blue collared employee can operate his equipments, machines from home. His supervisors can verify, check with the cameras put on shop floor. And work from home will not be a dream for blue collared workmen also, considering this IoT development of Internet of Things coming in picture. Every machine connected to another machine, every machine talking to another machine, the machine giving messages back, and I mean, lot many interconnectivity. With all these things, work from home can be taken care of even for blue collared workmen. So Internet of Things is going to say bring that kind of change in the whole industry, not only automotive. It will be any manufacturing industry, but it will be bringing that change, and it will give that flexibility even to blue collared workmen. So it will not be a wonder that while taking an interview or while giving an interview of any employee, that employee may ask whether how much remote control your factory has, and based on that, that also will become one of his parameters to choose the company. Next, please. This is the last slide, but this is too dangerous thing that is going to come, and I think those who are into manufacturing industry has to witness this 3D printing. 3D printing will probably it will change the whole scenario of manufacturing. The manufacturing industry will be complement this 3D printing has a power which can collapse completely, practically collapse this manufacturing industry. All these big size manufacturing setups can be vacated. Means those who know 3D printing may endorse my statement. But if I talk a little louder, if I take a little liberty of imagination, and if I make a small exaggeration, it may not be a wonder that with this 3D printing technology, in a machine you can give only a drawing of your car, the color that you want for your car, the engine that you need for your car, the kind of seats that you want in your car, the kind of interior that you expect from your car. You will give the drawing, and the car will come out of a machine. That kind of power this 3D printing have. I know for sure I'm talking too loud. It may not happen in 10 years, but it will not be a wonder that it happens in 20 years. So this is 3D printing is one of the best technologies, but at the same time, it's a scary technology that is coming in, and it will not be a wonder in our lifetime. We will be seeing lot many things out of this. With this, I rest here. If there are certain questions, most welcome, and sincere thanks again to give me an opportunity to talk to all of you. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much, Umesh. So I will request for all other participants to please raise your hand in a system. So you have a reaction in icon at the bottom of your screen, and you can go there and raise your hand so that I can request Mr. Umesh to answer your queries. I'll request each one of you to go to a reaction. If you have any queries, you can go to reaction and raise your hand. Yes, Mr. Rikesh Jain, please go ahead. You can ask the question to Mr. Umesh.
Umesh ji, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Very nicely. Your flow was really excellent. I myself is Rikesh Jain. I'm an executive coach for family managed businesses. And recently we have also started parallel work with the oxygen concentrator. Oh. The details I have given there. Now, my question is there. Just you mentioned that police is a threat, means it is a really challenge for the future industries. 3D printing. Mm-hmm. Can you explain 3D printing and what is the correlation in between CNC, that the all designing machine and many different instruments and parts the machines are making, and very huge and expensive machines are there. What is the difference in that CNC as well as the 3D printing?
Yeah. Basically, is CNC is computer numerical controlled machines which can do certain limited number of operations. They are, of course, they are into. I mean, they can do machining, but they cannot do welding. They can do machining on say rods, but at the same time they cannot give any shape to this thing sheet metal. Whereas in this 3D printing, what really happens is it's a laser-based technology. There is a fine powder of material, and you submit a drawing to a material to the machine, and that machine captures that drawing, and based on that drawing, layer by layer, it spreads that powder only where it is required as per drawing, and then a finished part comes out. Now here it can be, the part, if you want to manufacture in conventional way, it may need machining, it may need pressing, it may need fabrication, it may need surface coating, it may need all other operations. But in this particular 3D printing, it doesn't need anything. Everything happens with that machine, and a finished part comes out. And even the assemblies can come out. Even the assemblies like hinge, whatever we have, no hinge, where two moving parts are there. Even those kind of assemblies come out, and they move with each other as if they are being assembled, say outside or in a conventional way, or rather even better than that. The tolerances can be maintained much better than what we can maintain into conventional tolerances. So this is a basic difference. You also might have heard or seen on somewhere on WhatsApp that in China the houses are being built with 3D printing. So it is again a similar kind of thing. All that mixture is fed to the machine as a material, and then that say there is a sort of probe which moves as per drawing that is submitted to the machine. And it creates completely whatever drawing that you have fed to that machine. So that is in a simpler way that I can explain about this 3D machine. Whatever CNC. Sorry.
Hello. Yeah. Yes. Means part by part, different parts will be created in one place, and it is also assembled through that machine. Am I right?
That's true. Assembled part will come out of that machine.
Assembled parts will come out. Okay. But this machine will be a very huge machine when he's thinking about the home or construction, the building.
Yes, it is a machine. Definitely. It's if it is for a say a building of if it is to construct some building, definitely it will require that kind of course. Then for a building, it is a system. Actually, it's not a complete machine as such. It comes in a system kind of thing, which you can build wall by wall.
Thank you very much. Very nicely you explain us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
We will move to Mr. Amit Chawla, please. Please, you can ask
the question. Thanks, Mr. Umesh, for giving this presentation. The question I have for you is, I'm a business clarity coach, and I coach entrepreneurs and business owners who are into manufacturing and service industry. The question for you is, if we know this change is coming, that as a layman person who's not directly into automotive, manufacturing and all that, what all we need to be ready? How do we get ready for this change? Because, for example, this pandemic has hit us. If we had been a bit of awareness that this may hit us, we would have got oxygen, concentrated at home. Everybody's home. but we were not aware. Now we are now struggling and trying to get it. So as a layman, what all we should be ready, get ready so that this change we are adapting at the right time?
Sir, we will have to know and understand the new technologies coming in. There is no other go to that. Because as I said, the manufacturing industry today, the manufacturing industry should start deploying at least one 3D printing machine and start getting acquainted with that machine, because this change will not happen overnight. This change will happen, say, in 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. But at that point of time, if at all, I mean, it is just like that oxygen thing which had happened. If at all we are awakening at that point of time, then probably it will be of no use. We should know and understand what that 3D printing is and what is that 3D printing can do. I'm just taking an example of 3D printing. It's not the only thing that is going to happen. And of course, when I'm saying that everything will happen by 3D printing, as I said during my talk also, that it's a little exaggeration that I'll be doing. Undoubtedly, there will be certain things which we will have to do separately. Like now, sensor industry is one of the industry which is coming up, or maybe in intangible things, that AI industry is the industry which is going to come up. So probably we will have to understand, the change is inevitable, and the change is going to happen. There is no doubt in that. But now today, we will have to understand what changes are coming, and we will have to decide ourselves what can be my competence, which change in the whole process, what is that I can really take, and we should start working right today in those things, so that it over a period of time we also will have some other avenues or some other things to work.
Yeah, because of this, I think some of the professions will go off. Like a driver, if autonomous cars comes in, and if this manufacturing, this 3D comes, then probably some of the roles and the skills required would change drastically.
Right? That's true. Absolutely. That is bound to happen. We should not deny that. That is definitely bound to happen. At the same time, again, there will be new jobs; those will be coming in. New things, those will be coming in, and we will have to be again ready for the same thing. We cannot say that I'm doing XYZ and I'll be sticking to this. So naturally, we will have to adopt those kind of new things.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Right. So, Mr. Bhushan Akolkar, please.
Yeah, sir. So good evening, sir. And it was a very nice session was been taken by you, and I really thank you for this. But ideally, like part.
You're on mute, Mr. Bhushan.
Sorry.
Yeah.
A part of my question was been covered by Amit ji. Am I audible? Hello.
Yeah.
Yes. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So the part of my question was been covered by Amit ji already. That when we are talking about a 3D printing machine or the complete assembled car will be coming out. So the kind of unemployment that we are looking out for, because as per best of my knowledge, the factory of the Mercedes Pune has been already operated under 70% robotics, which is at Chakan, I guess. I'm not been aware about the correct location, yes. But
you're right. Yeah.
Factory at Chakan has been already been under operational for more than 70% under robotics, and now you're talking about which is more than 90. So kind of unemployment that is been going to create, like sir already said about the drivers, because the driverless car have been coming. So I mean, so how we are going to deal with it?
Sir, now this undoubtedly this is a difficult question to answer, and probably I don't think I'm a right person to respond on that. But what I personally think is when there was computerization in banks, the same question was raised.
Yeah.
After the complete banks are totally computerized, that core system has came in place, all internet banking has started, but that had not reduced the strength of the banks. On the contrary, the banks had increased their business, and which had given there were a lot many other opportunities came in. So the total strength of the bank is not reduced. So I think this is, I don't know whether this is really a relevant and apple to apple kind of comparison, but whenever something is diminishing, which is bound to happen, you cannot expect everything done for lifetime. So naturally, some other things will definitely emerge. Like now robotics, whenever we are talking about robotic, maintenance of robo itself is a job of its kind. Means it is not that if you put a robo, it simply means that all other activities are gone or nothing is required. Manpower will be required.
Yeah, yeah.
Only that the person say he was doing welding. Now he will have to learn how to maintain the robot. But person will be required. Means it is not that the things will become absolutely jobless and those kind of things.
Okay, okay, sir. Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Nature of job will change probably.
Mr. Chintarajan Kavi, please.
Good evening, Dasati sir.
Good evening, Chintarajan sir. How are you?
I'm fine. How do you do, sir?
Fine, fine. Thank you.
Thank you for enlightening us on this thing. And it scares me that if 3D printing is coming, then because I am a consultant and coach on coating application technology, I think this technology is going to be eliminated completely.
There'll be some, as I said, the change is inevitable. The things.
No, that's true, sir.
Not happen overnight, but yes, it will be. There will be a problem. Mm-hmm. There may a problem if we see it from this point of view.
Yes, sir. Because I am concerned because coating industry is $1 billion of rupees in India.
Correct.
So, and number of people are working over there.
Yes, sir.
What I expect that it may be so that on the manufacturing part of coating materials, I think there will be jobs, and for the application part, there will be no jobs. Am I correct, sir?
All the time possible. I mean, now you see when we are talking about coating, now what is happening is if in nanotechnology, with the help of nanotechnology, even the colors, I mean, the metal itself is taking the desired colors.
Right.
So you never know whether coating will be required, application will be required. If at all you are getting a sheet metal of a desired color itself, molecules of desired color, then probably coating also may be
eliminated, not required.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Changes are definitely going to happen, man. That is for sure.
No doubt.
Yeah. Thank you. Mr. Rajesh Budraja, please.
Yeah. Good evening, Umeshji.
Good evening, sir.
It was excellent hearing you. And just to give you a quick intro, for me, I've been about 42 years in the corporate, out of which last 27 years, I've been closely associated with the automobile industry.
Simply great. Sir.
We've been in HVAC and indoor air quality. And now, of course, I have a platform of experts on my platform who are into wastewater management, automation and control, lean manufacturing. So we are supporting the industry on that. My question is, I do know that you have one of your vertical is also into aluminum die casting. I was maybe reading somewhere. Now, with the cars getting into EV, the heart of the car, which is the engine, that's going to go away.
Right.
And a lot of these casting industries, like in North, we have, Sunbeam was there, Mr. Munjal, Ashok Munjal owned it. He sold it off to someone. Mm-hmm. And there is a number of people like Shriram Pistons making pistons. Mm-hmm. So, pistons won't be needed. Mm-hmm. So what is the way out for these industries? One thing, of course, which came to my mind while you were talking, that if robots are going to be there, people would need to maintain the robots. Yes. The robots need again parts, which again could be casted parts. Right. So maybe these companies probably have to start looking forward that, with this going out, can I start looking at some other product range to be ready for the future which is coming?
Sir, you're absolutely right. There will be, again, aluminum die casting probably may face little hit, yes. But per se, those who are working in aluminum may have very, very bright future than anything else, because with all this, with whatever is happening in automotive industry, again, lightweighting is also one of the area which is being focused, and there cannot be anything better than aluminum for lightweighting.
Absolutely.
Specifically now, aluminum alloys have developed which are very, very, which can produce very thin, say, I'm talking about sheet metal, of course, but it's basically aluminum.
Yes.
So the alloys which are very strong
You can have thinner.
At par with whatever steels can do.
Yes.
And with this lightweighting, overall cost, the effective cost also can be controlled. Advantage of ferrous material is it is say cheaper. But advantage of this aluminum is this: if you can give same strength at a very less weight, probably the effective cost will be same.
Yeah, for example, the frame of the car can be made different.
Precisely. Yes. And then it is a job of its kind. Means it's not that operations on aluminum is not so very simple. So those who are working in aluminum for a longer time, may it be in aluminum die casting. Those who know what aluminum is, probably they can be getting these kind of things can happen for them for lightweighting.
Are you looking at that direction?
I would love to.
Great. So can we move to Mr. Mithilesh Jha, please?
Sir, good morning to all. In fact, मेरा क्वेश्चन उमेश सर से ये है कि इंटरनेशनली हम काफी तेजी से जो है ऑटो सेक्टर में बढ़ रहे हैं. मैं लॉजिस्टिक्स सेक्टर से हूँ. क्या लॉजिस्टिक्स का भी चांस है ऑटो सेक्टर में जैसे कि बाकी से चीजें चल रही है? मुझे लगता है कि नेक्स्ट बिग थिंग जो इंडिया के साथ होने वाला है वो ऑटो इंडस्ट्री होने वाला है, बिकॉज ऑफ पूरा अफ्रीका मार्केट में इंडियन ऑटो कंपनियां धीरे धीरे करके नंबर 1 बनती जा रही हैं. तो शायद क्या हम लोगों के लिए भी अपॉर्चुनिटी है जो लॉजिस्टिक्स में. ऑलरेडी मैं 23 साल से लॉजिस्टिक्स इंडस्ट्री में हूँ और पूरा अफ्रीका में देख रहे हैं कि वहां पर जो है अपॉर्चुनिटी ऑटो इंडस्ट्री में बहुत ज्यादा है.
Sir, undoubtedly logistics is a big thing, specifically in Indian environment, today's environment. आजकल क्या हो रहा है कि अगर आप देखते हैं, देखिए the DMIC corridor, there is one thing called as DMIC corridor that is coming in. दिल्ली मुंबई इंडस्ट्रियल कॉरिडोर, जो कि दिल्ली से मुंबई तक एक सिंगल कॉरिडोर स्पेसिफिकली फॉर ट्रांसपोर्ट ऑफ गुड्स बनाया जा रहा है. वेयर ड्रीम तो ऐसा है गवर्नमेंट का कि उसके ऊपर शायद हो सकता है ऑटोनोमस व्हीकल्स भी चले कल, बिकॉज इट इज पैरेलल टू रेल ट्रैक. तो जैसे रेल ट्रैक जा रहा है वैसे ही ये DMIC का पूरा ट्रैक जा रहा है. इंडिया इज बिकमिंग अ लो कॉस्ट कंट्री. अभी चाइना की तरफ तो कोई देख नहीं रहा है मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में. इंडिया इज बिकमिंग लो कॉस्ट कंट्री. नेचुरली इट इज एक्सपेक्टेड दैट इन से नेक्स्ट 5 years जो इंडिया का एक्सपोर्ट है वो काफी बढ़ेगा. नेचुरली यहाँ पर काफी माल तैयार होगा तो ट्रांसपोर्ट होगा. बिकॉज अगर एक्सपोर्ट करना है तो यू हैव टू गो टू सी शोर. हर एक को एक तो बॉम्बे में जाना है या मद्रास में जाना है या सी शोर पर जाना है गुजरात में. So it definitely will be calling for the biggest this thing. Next thing will be undoubtedly the transportation industry. Specifically इसका नीड भी हमने देखा सर. हमारा ये जब लॉजिस्टिक्स का जो नीड है या ऑक्सीजन का जो प्रॉब्लम हुआ, very categorically both the MDs of oxygen manufacturing biggest companies, Linde and Inox, both MDs have stated very clearly that there is no shortage of oxygen. The only problem is logistics. So logistics industry in India has a great potential, specifically looking to the developments those are coming in. All roads are becoming better. Infrastructure is becoming better. Connectivities are becoming better. That golden quadrilateral is almost completed. This Samruddhi Mahamarg, I am talking about Maharashtra. Samruddhi Mahamarg is a big thing that is coming in Nagpur to Mumbai, which is the longest way, almost 1,000 kilometers. This DMIC, what I am talking about, has from Delhi, right from Delhi to Mumbai, which is covering more than half of India. So this logistics business definitely has a very great potential in my opinion.
Thank you. Mithilesh, you are happy?
I'm more happy. Yeah,
it's good for him.
Raju, please.
कि हमारा बिजनेस भी बढ़ने की संभावना, ऑल्दो हमारा अभी 14-15% हमारी लॉजिस्टिक्स कॉस्ट ओवरऑल टोटल कॉस्ट का होता है और ओवर वर्ल्ड का ये 8 से 9% है. तो 5-6% का गैप है. ये डाउन हो गया तो इंडियन का कॉस्ट वैसे ही कम हो जाएगा कम्पीट होने के लिए बाहर में. तो
बिल्कुल सही बात है।
और बाकी इंडस्ट्री में अगर ये सब चीजें हो जाए हम कॉम्पिटिटिव होंगे, हम लोगों के लिए और बाकियों के लिए बिजनेस बढ़ेगा। थैंक यू सर। थैंक यू सर।
थैंक यू।
Mr. Dipesh Jaju.
Hello.
Yeah, please go ahead. You can
Hello.
start your video also, Mr. Jaju, so that
Yeah, 1 minute, sir. I will start. I was driving the vehicle. I will just start.
You are asking about a vehicle while driving a vehicle.
Hello, Umesh sir.
Hi, how are you?
Fine, fine, sir. Very fine. Thank you, sir. Actually, my question is, sir, means automation will be there, technology change will be there, but as we had seen in the Indian history, that we were always the lagger in the technology development. Means whatever happens in the other country, we will implement it 10 to 20 years later than the other countries what they implement. So whether the same trend will be followed this time, or this time due to globalization and everything, the technology change will take with the immediate effect as it happens in Europe or America. The first point is that. And the second point is that over the period, first we had lot many collaboration in technology from European countries. Then in the second wave, we had lot many collaboration from Japanese companies. So do you think this time the Chinese companies will also influence in sensors and automation and 3D printing business? Because they are, I think, technically way ahead in this technology as compared to India. So a lot of collaboration can come from China. Do you think on this? What is your suggestion?
Yes, Dipesh, no doubt that technology change is always driven by the developed countries. Means earlier it was driven by Western countries, now it is driven by Japan, and now recently China. The major reason for this development not happening in our country is simply because our government doesn't support to research and development. And other governments are supporting to research and development like anything. This, out of per capita income, almost more than 6% is spent by America on R&D. Japan spends almost close to 5.6% on R&D. Our expenditure, India per se, our expenditure on R&D is hardly 0.2 to 0.3%. So this is a kind of, and that too, you see, this is we are talking about percentage of GDP. Their GDP is already 10 times better than us. So you can imagine what kind of spend that these people are doing on R&D. Our government will have to take an initiative to give good subsidies to industry for R&D. Unfortunately, government is not concentrating on that. Government had concentrated on this in case of serum, and serum had developed, or say Bharat Biotech, and Bharat Biotech had developed a vaccine. So competence is not a problem in this country. The real problem is focus on research and development, and that focus has to happen from government, because research and development is not a thing that is going to happen in a year's time or in smaller time. It takes years together, and it also needs good amount of money. And Indian industry do not have enough capacity to spend that money. When I say this, I don't mean those top 100 corporates. I mean all other industries which are like yours and mine. So,
yes.
So this is one of a major reason why we are lagging in this thing. And you are absolutely right. China is, with all said and done, touch wood, within 4 walls, we should not say anything like this, but even till date, sale of Chinese goods has not reduced to substantial extent, and it will not reduce unless and until we start giving in-house supports to our industries.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, Mr. Ajay Singh, please.
Good evening, Umesh sir.
Good evening, sir.
Thanks for your thought-provoking trends in auto sector lecture on that. I am working more than 37 years into MSME, working with the largest MSME chamber, that was Indian Industry Association earlier. Now I am also working with a premier Indo-Latin American Chamber of Commerce as a director. My one question, when you have started your lecture, then you have said one thing, that it is environmental, some disformities which have created pandemics and we have to adapt on that. That is very true. But now the things are changing drastically. People are talking about warfare, and there are 2-3 very senior generals, lieutenant generals. One is Mr. G.D. Baxi. He is about to come in a book with a book where he says that my PLA friends all are lieutenant generals, and one is lady is working in Wuhan. See, all have committed in their chat. Okay, what you people are doing on borders, we are doing something else. So this is a bio warfare. That is one correction. The other very intelligent question I want to ask you, because you are an expert on this area, is relates to that we are about to finish a deal with a Finnish e-vehicle company. That is a small cluster-based company, and we are going to take over its technology and all and apply it in India. And there is one pilot project which is already offered by Ministry of MSME of 270 e-charging between Delhi to Agra. So you have said in your lecture that there is always a confusion like that Euro 6 or Bharat 6, whatever standard is, and the electric vehicle e-pollution. We have to see which is more polluting. So my worry is that we are going to have one that MOU. So what is the due course of, what is your advice regarding this pollution problem? Because suppose we are going to invest that money, and in time to come, if it is the electrical pollution is there in India, and a company will, and the India will come with some regulation, some kind of regulation, then there is a chance to lose something. So can you highlight on that?
What is this company manufacturing, sir? I could not get that.
Ajay, you have gone on a mute.
Yeah. They are a Finnish company, MSME company. So they are into e-vehicle charging. Small and medium sized segments, like to a level of 15 lakhs, 30 lakhs, like that.
Okay.
So there is a relevance of employing that technology in India, because we have MSMEs and other part of the people who have retail to wholesale chain. There we can apply this and a good number, and that's why government has, and Niti Aayog has given us permission to go with 270 charging as a pilot project. But that is, we have to import that technology that time. But when we are going to invest and come with that technology in India, then the question arises about pollution. So what is your advice?
Sir, if at all it is related to this e-vehicle charging, I think that will be need of the hour. It is irrespective, because government had already passed a resolution based on G7 countries summit, which has happened a number of times. Based on that, government had passed a resolution that by 2025, all two-wheelers below 150cc has to be electric vehicles. It also has some fixed targets for four-wheelers. It also has some fixed targets for commercial vehicles. So this is a no U-turn kind of scenario. So this particular thing, this e-vehicle charging thing, will definitely be required. Means come what may, even whatever I said also stays at its place. But that at the same time, that doesn't mean that this thing will not work. This thing will definitely work, because this is bound to happen and this will happen. Okay. So there is no doubt in that. My personal opinion is it's a good opportunity and you should not miss this opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Is there any question? Let me just check the chat also. So okay, there are a few more. Mr. Sudhir, yes, go ahead, please. Mr. Sudhir.
Hello.
Yeah, Mr. Sudhir, please start your video also.
Yeah. Just now we are talking about the e-charging and the pollution related to it. So one major thing is that in battery charging, or if you use lithium ion or any other battery, that battery is going to create some e-waste problems. As well as if the charging is done by burning the coal, then pollution will be much higher than what is produced by conventional IC engine. It is expected that the charging should be done by the non-conventional or renewable energy source, and that way then the pollution will be reduced.
Correct. You are true, sir. And in India, there are good attempts those that happen for renewable energy sources. Almost 13-14% energy what we produce on national level is through renewable energy sources, and that is going to increase in times to come. So definitely, what you are saying is right. If at all, now there are countries like Norway which are producing 100% by renewable energy source.
Yeah.
So every country is trying to approach towards that they should be using natural resources for producing electricity and make the whole thing say pollution free. So
in charging station, the challenge is how to make this supply 24/7, because then your solar energy or other sources are for a specific period of time in a day.
Yes,
and that is where these charging stations and other things, they have a big challenge.
That is true. Of course, every problem will always have a solution because energy can be stored also.
No? So when that technology comes, then only the charging stations will be more viable. Otherwise, there is a threat to this industry.
Yeah, that is true. But again, at the same time, we also have, in case of mobile, we also have our battery packs with us now.
Yeah,
that is similar thing may happen. This is just
yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Umesh. We'll have to wind up fast. So, can I take one question more from Mr. Ronak Kankaria, please? Maybe Rinkesh ji, I think we have to hold you for some time because you have already asked one question. Mr. Rinkesh, please go ahead and ask Ronak. Sorry, Ronak, please ask your question.
Yes. Hello, Mr. This is Ronak Kankaria here from Keshardeep Tube. Hello. Sir, my question to you is, as we were talking about the 3D printing technology, do you think the sheet metal components that we manufacture today through the conventional press machines and everything, do you think that can be replaced in like coming 5 to 10 years from now?
Why not?
Using metal additive manufacturing?
Why not? It is possible. There is nothing great in whatever we are doing in sheet metal components. The only thing is today their cost is very good. The cost at producing sheet metal components is way cheaper than what otherwise we'll produce it from 3D.
Correct.
But at the same time, you never know when the cost will go down. Because earlier when mobiles were started, we were buying 1 minute for 16 rupees. Today it's almost for free. So it's a subject to time. The change is always a factor of time. So
correct.
It is not impossible. Today it is not happening because it is very, very costly. But as and when cost reduces, the things will be different.
Right. We will move to Mr. Abhay Kulkarni.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, please go ahead.
Umesh sir, very good evening to you and all the participants. Myself, Abhay Kulkarni.
Good evening.
Hello.
Good evening.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Sir, we are the dire fans of you and we are into the JK alumni. Sir, I have been into job for around 20 to 24 years into all these sectors, like from the manufacturing projects and all. And since around 5 years, I have been into my own manufacturing unit. We are doing the drip irrigation manufacturing. And at present, I am into the plastics industry, yes, sir. So I just wanted to know, sir, from the expert like you, now since by around 2025, we will be moving into the EVs in case of two-wheeler. Anyway, it could be achieved. It is achievable also. So, hello.
There are some network challenges. Your voice clearly. Yeah, you are gone on a mute also. So maybe you can have a phone with Mr. Umesh after this meeting because we are getting late. So may I take Mr. Vijay Goel's last call, sorry, Mr. Ravi Shankar Korgal as a last, question.
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir. Myself, Ravi Shankar. I work for GIZ. We are very closely working with CMI, Masia, Marathwada Auto Cluster for the skill development activities. And it was a wonderful presentation and a lot of good inputs for us also for the skilling activities. I think whatever the areas you mentioned are directly connected with the skill gaps. And so we need to address these skill gaps actually to overcome all the resource requirements. That is very, very important. See, what are your suggestions and recommendations for actually bridging these skill gaps? Definitely, you also may be going to face such problems in future with your skilled manpower.
So my first suggestion is you should start working in Marathwada in a big way than whatever you are doing today. Because I know for sure you are really doing a great job specifically into this training side, and you are absolutely right. Means it is a big need. I also mentioned at one point. I did not speak about that, but I mentioned it at one point that training industry will be one of the biggest requirement in times to come, because all these things will require trained manpower. And,
yes.
At many places in past we suffered a lot, because specifically when something like SAP came in, SAP, this ERP system, we faced a lot on consultants or proper trained manpower. But today, yes, the things are quite comfortable. Similarly, we will have to work on this thing, and there has to be a serious and practical oriented working, because the kind of education that we are getting in engineering colleges and this thing is not going to help us. We will have to be really practical like GIZ is doing, because I personally had seen that the people who are trained under your programs, they definitely have a different caliber altogether. So those kind of things will be required in a great way, in a big way. And this is also one of the area to be looked at.
Okay.
So,
thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Vijay Goel, you have a question. Can you be very quick? You have to unmute yourself, Mr. Vijay Goel, please. We can't hear you. Sorry, I can't hear you. You are not audible. No, you are not audible, sir. You are not audible.
हेलो
या सो टेकिंग इन या विजय जी बोलिए।
हाँ, मेरा क्वेश्चन ये था सर कि अभी हमारी कंट्री में लॉजिस्टिक इंडस्ट्री अनऑर्गेनाइज सेक्टर के हाथ में है फुल्ली, मगर जीएसटी का जो आईटीसी का क्रेडिट का जो ऑप्शन दिया गया है उसके कारण से अनऑर्गेनाइज सेक्टर की कॉस्ट जो है परचेज कॉस्ट व्हीकल की 28% से बढ़ जा रही है। इस पे आपका क्या व्यू है? मैंने चैट पे और बाकी डिटेल्स लिख दी है ऑलरेडी।
नहीं सर, मतलब कमर्शियली आई एम वेरी वीक, आई एम सॉरी, मतलब too technical to understand these commercial things, but yes, there can be certain things done
मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है सर कि हमारा जो है लॉजिस्टिक सेक्टर रोड ट्रांसपोर्ट का मैक्सिमम अनऑर्गेनाइज सेक्टर में, कोई भी वही ओनर है ट्रक का, वही ड्राइवर है, वो सब कुछ एक सिंगल मैन हैंडल कर रहा है। मगर जीएसटी रजिस्टर्ड पर्सन जो है अगर कोई, तो उसको आईटीसी का क्रेडिट मिल जाता है, जिसके कारण से उसकी 28% से कॉस्ट कम हो जाती है।
करेक्ट।
तो वो इसके कारण से करीब 5 लाख जो नए एम्प्लॉयड अपॉर्चुनिटीज थी वो खत्म हो गई है। तो इस पे आपका क्या
सर? इसमें ऐसा है कि देखिए, as a good citizen we should not say try to overrule certain things. अभी अगर जीएसटी का लॉ है, whether we like it we dislike it, but we should get enrolled. अभी वो छोटा है बड़ा है, probably that can be a matter of debate and this thing, लेकिन जीएसटी को रजिस्टर हो गया तो उसको भी मिल जाएगा क्रेडिट।
नहीं, मगर क्या हो रहा है, ऐसा होने से सरकार की करीब 25,000 करोड़ की एवरी ईयर रेवेन्यू लॉस हो रहा है ये पॉलिसी जीएसटी के कारण से, जो पहले डायरेक्टली गवर्नमेंट के पास में एक्सचेकर को आ रही थी।
Hey, that is true. I think you should really take this point to government with facts and figures.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Right. So thank you, everyone. Thank you very much for your questions. I think we have, we should say thank you to Mr. Umesh for, answering each and every question so patiently. And but still, I have one small question here because I'm into coaching training business, and when we are talking about 3D printers, I think government already started Atal Tinkering Lab, and we have rolled out around 7 to 8 schools where we have given 3D printers to a kid who is hardly now, into a first, second standard. And he's now developing product on a 3D printing. So I think I can see that 3D printing, which you said, down the line after 10 years, it is, something which is in the making, I would say. And the second thing which which probably the Mr. Kurgal already, discussed about is the gap. So do you think that because there is a huge gap when we are talking about the forecasting the future, taking into consideration the new technology, taking into consideration the, so there is a huge gap. Even an engineer today, when he is coming to you, he is not in a position to even do the job, which is, today's, he has to complete today. Probably he is not even ready for the future. So how do you look up to it? When, what are, like, I would love to talk to Mr. Kurgal and understand from him. But definitely, what is your view on that?
Sir, undoubtedly gaps are there, and we need to bridge those gaps. And while bridging those gaps, we should not forget one thing, that this country has a great potential. There was also a point on technology, I think Dipesh had raised. There is no dearth of good people. The problem is good policies from government. Government is taking care of, say, hands. Everybody wants to give work to hands. Whenever employment is said, the employment simply means giving works to hand. But nobody thinks about giving works to brains, which you are doing by that Atal Tinkering Lab. Yeah. Now, a child who had seen Atal in his Atal Tinkering Lab, who had seen that 3D printing, naturally he will be a great engineer in 3D printing. There is no rocket science in this. And this country is such a country which can take out, which can take this, take the rocket to say to Mars at the cost of auto rickshaw. It's the amazing things are happening in this country, no doubt in that. And why I say Bharat Biotech is, it is a great example. A little support, a little encouragement, and things are done. So it's not that we need to depend on to other countries. We need a little training. We need a little right kind of exposure, sort of practical oriented approach, and the things will definitely happen. This country is a great country, no doubt in that. We should not doubt on capabilities of this country in any way. But this kind of, the way you are thinking, the way Kurgal sir is thinking, if that comes in, that comes in reality, means if that goes ahead, then the things will be really very different, no doubt in that.
Thank you, sir. So we have, very insisting Mr. Abhay Kulkarni, please go ahead, and that will be a last from my side. It will be very difficult for me to hold Mr. Umesh for a long time, So please go ahead, Mr. Abhay. Please unmute yourself and please ask fast.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for that. Umesh, sir, precisely my question is that, like, we are moving into the EVs. So what is the proportion of, say, the plastic components by, say, weight-wise, that would come into picture after this complete, the takeover of industry into the EVs, like where all the sheet metals and all the components and parts will be replaced. Of course, there will be, say, few assemble parts and few small assemblies left with the, in case of metal as MOC. So, what is the percentage you pursue that would be converted into plastics from the metal part?
It is really difficult to tell what will be the percentage, but one thing is for sure, that the kind of developments those are happening in plastic material. There are a lot of things that those can happen. Today you can see certain gears inside the engine which are made of plastic, which was not the case say 5 or 10 years down the line. So plastic material has very means different properties which are highly beneficial. It has a very nice weight to strength ratio. It has very nice flexibility. It has good life, good wear and tear. It has good friction properties. So and it can be used on outer side as well as inner side. It can be used for structural components. It can be used for aesthetic components. It can get very good finish if at all it comes to painting. So I mean, ideally speaking, and again I'm talking ideally, even it will not be out of place to say that 100% vehicle can be made of plastic. But there are different criteria and different this thing for which we are using different materials, because there are many things which need to be taken into consideration. But can a 100% plastic vehicle work? The answer is yes. So plastic definitely has a very good potential. And what can really happen is if you are into plastics, maybe you can suggest that certain things can be converted into plastic. Say, for example, today, many companies are manufacturing their petrol tanks in plastic, even for two-wheelers. The shape of petrol tank, whatever we see from outer side, it's only a cover in many two-wheeler motorcycles. Whereas inside there is a plastic tank. In three-wheelers, 100% plastic is being used. In four-wheelers, many of the companies are using plastic in petrol. So use of plastic is enormous. What can happen is even you can suggest that these components will be changing into or converting into plastic. So there is no limit that how much percentage is to be used. I don't think there can really be a limit, but you will have to find out variants in plastic also. You will have to find newer and newer variants in plastic.
Right. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for being here. So I will request Mr. Atul Puri to speak out. He's the founder of eGrowth, the platform where we all are here, and he's the founder. And I will request Mr. Atul Puri to speak few words.
Yeah. So thank you, Virendra, for inviting me. So Umesh sir, thanks a lot for really talking on multiple dimensions. In terms of technology, in terms of social structure, in terms of the direction in which we are going, in terms of how things have evolved. I think this was an awesome presentation. Having said that, one of the things which you said was that R&D or research is something which will come with a government intervention and government infrastructure. So thanks a lot for bringing that up. At eGrowth, we are talking about a structure which is in spite of the government, because we're a great country, we've got a great lineage, and we've got a great history behind us. And none of that has been because of the government. That has been because of we, the people. All right. You also said one thing that we're not talking about the 100 odd large corporates. One thing, we are at 2029, so that is 8:30. I request all of you to give me around 10 minutes. I would like to share with you what is eGrowth, how you can leverage eGrowth. The future that Umesh sir has just shown us, that cannot happen because of the government. That will be created only because of you and me. So I would like you to just spend another 10 minutes. All right. So, sorry, where was I? Yeah, so, so all this technology, history, all that put together, we need to work in a different fashion. The large companies, they've got enough money and resources to do whatsoever they want. But when it comes to you and me, we need to be frugal. We don't have that kind of money. We cannot hire a KPMG, PwC, or a McKinsey. मैं खुद मुख्तियार हूं, so I'm the only one. Okay, so who's got to build that? So that is the thought with which we've been building eGrowth. I'll take a couple of minutes to take you through a small presentation wherein I'll share how eGrowth has shaped up and what is available to all of you. All right, I'll just share a presentation and then maybe a couple of minutes for conversation. Right. So e-growth stands for exponential growth. We're of the belief that all businesses can have exponential growth, provided they're designed well. We are a sales and marketing ecosystem for entrepreneurs. Our mission is to help businesses make more money. We work on 3 elements: collaboration, which is about bringing business owners together. Because we don't have a lot of money, because we don't have a lot of resources. So when we were young, during the Doordarshan days, there was a video which was Ek Chidiya, Anek Chidiya. So I believe in that Anek Chidiya. So collaboration, coming together and building an ecosystem which supports each other. Second is excellence. Since we don't have a lot of resources, we look at how we can build those resources. So one of the things which India did very innovatively was that India went from copper to mobile in a span of a few years. That was the fastest globally. And then further beyond that, since we were a country which was a low-cost country, we brought that tariff also down. And today, the density is probably the highest. I wouldn't have the numbers, probably the highest. So that's excellence. So we have, like you were talking about Bharat Biotech, we would have quite a few. Even I would say Rucha itself you would have quite a few innovations under your belt. You did not really speak too much about what you've been doing. I wish you would have spoken more about it. That would have been, maybe next time we'll ask you to come and speak only about that. All right. So those innovations are something which really make a lot of difference. All right. Third piece is opportunities. All of us need opportunities. So these are the 3 things on which eGrowth works. This is how we've grown. The idea was conceived in 2014 when I used to work with an American MNC. And then I thought that I am operating out of an air-conditioned office, but a small business owner, he opens the shutter in the morning and he closes the shutter in the evening and rests during the day, everything he does. What if we could create an ecosystem which supports him? With that, today we've got a community of around 40,000+ entrepreneurs across India and across some countries, some other countries. This is some little media coverage that we've got. This is how we've been engaging. These are some of the events. This was 2014 November, the first ever workshop which we did in Mumbai. And these are various events that we've done. Virendra, this is you. So this was how we evolved. Okay. These are some of the industry bodies with which we've been working. So rather than being a network wherein we invite people to come into the room and network with us, we go all out and see how all we can collaborate. So Anand Pol sir, thanks a lot for having spoken to Umesh sir and such illustrious people who bring this kind of knowledge to all of us. Otherwise, the 60 odd people who were there on the Zoom call today, many of them would have heard 3D printing for the first time today. IoT did not catch the fancy of many, but IoT in itself is a new world altogether. ER, VR, all of them are new worlds, right? So this is what is available when we interact with other bodies. GIZ is definitely one of the forebearers in terms of investing into learning and development for the small businesses. So I've closely worked with GIZ here up north, and definitely we'd like to take it further, all right? Last year when the lockdown happened, on the first day of the lockdown, 24th evening, the lockdown was declared. 25th morning, we started with the CEO talks, and we had 152 talks with no break. Every day we had a talk. So like now we are having these talks once in a week. Last year we had one every day. and we impacted around 8,000 business owners. All right. All these talks are there on the eGrowth YouTube channel. I invite all of you to subscribe to the eGrowth YouTube channel. You will see many such engrossing conversations, panel discussions, wherein we have industry experts from different industries, from different chambers, associations. And this year, what we did was, we have been having expert talks every week. So I invite all of you to keep on coming back, and every time there's a new expert, we're talking on a different aspect of the industry. And this is free. The intent is to engage the small businesses. This is something which will, even if we spend money, we cannot get this. All what we are expecting from you is investment of your time. All right. So Umesh sir, thanks a lot for coming in and contributing. We will be, so with your permission, we would be uploading this talk on the YouTube channel so that this is available to more people.
Perfect. No
right, problem. Sir? So knowledge sharing, business. Today we did not have enough time. Otherwise, we generally would go into a breakout room so that people are able to exchange, all the participants are able to exchange their numbers at least with a couple of people, and some networking happens. We'll time it better from next time. All right. The Zoom ID remains the same, 622-633-944. Our experts, we've got experts in quite a few different domains, coaches, trainers. Then we've got technology specialists. So you were talking about SAP or ERP. Yes, those were the early days when none of us knew what technology can do. None of us, even the companies themselves, did not know how to roll it out. After they trained their hands on multiple corporates, after they burned crores of rupees, then they got a handle of how it can happen in India. So today we're talking about lean manufacturing, we're talking about industrial automation. All that has become possible over a period of, Anand sir, you raising your hand, sir? Anand sir, you have got a question? You'll need to unmute yourself, sir. Anand sir, you'll need to unmute yourself.
There's no question, you just finished and...
Okay, done. Thanks. So
please continue.
Yeah, please. So
I'll speak at the last.
Sure. Industrial automation, process automation. These are some of the things which are very important to run the business. And what we are doing at eGrowth is we are handpicking the specialists so that as an industry, we have those resources available as and when you need. Maybe for information, maybe for rolling it out, maybe for a second opinion, maybe for executing, maybe as product experts. So all this is something what we are bringing together on eGrowth. Then we are talking about industrial engineering. See, we think the direction in which eGrowth, not only eGrowth, India is going, is that manufacturing is becoming more and more important. Whether we're talking about the DMIC or we are talking about the Ludhiana to East Corridor, or we are talking about Mumbai to Chennai Corridor, all this is revolving around industrial production. And for that, these are the kind of systems which are required, which is industrial commercial air conditioning, evaporating cooling, natural ventilation, automation control, wastewater treatment. These are certain aspects which we don't really look at in the normal routine. So these are some of the things which we are able to bring. We've got experts for all these, and we keep on building our line of experts. Right? Sorry. And for this, how is it that we engage with our members is that we've got an app, both on Android as well as on iOS. You can go to Play Store as well as App Store and download the app. Just search for eGrowth, or go to this link, onelink.to/eGrowth. So depending on whether you got an iOS phone or an Android phone, you will be able to download the app. Here, you can network with other business owners. You can promote your business. You can discuss with other business owners. There's a wall. You can have peer-to-peer chat. All this is available. We have a portal, egrowth.org. This is where we've got around 20,000 business owners right now. You can publish blogs and articles. You can publish events, opportunities. And if you are a paid subscriber, you are able to see the contact details of all the people on the platform and network with them and build business. Our three promises are collaboration, excellence, and opportunities. For opportunities, we need to network, we need to contact other people, and the first thing that we're helping you out with is contacts of other people. For excellence, we are bringing subject matter experts on the platform. And collaboration, that is the basic fundamental on which eGrowth is built. Our social media handle is eGrowth.org. We're there on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, as well as the app. You can please go and subscribe there. As I said, on our YouTube channel, there are more than 500 videos right now, which are similar or more or less engrossing as we have had today. Some business case studies. Just recently, we organized a Sales Master e-conference wherein we had around 250 participants. 5 out of the 6 speakers, they came from eGrowth. And one of the participants there was GIZ. So for the gentleman. And we participated with the PhD Chamber and other networking organizations as well, right? We went in January, before the lockdown, we went on a road trip to Punjab, and these are some photographs from there. We went to Mohali Industries Association. We went to CTR in Ludhiana, which is an initiative of GIZ. We went to the Chamber of Industrial Commercial Undertakings, Ludhiana. We also went on a industry visit to Chima Boilers, which is the 4th largest boiler manufacturing company in India. So these are the kind of initiatives that we do. We actually go to the field and meet up with business owners, meet up with industry bodies, so that we can bring more value to our members. All right. We also organized buyer-seller meetings for Dubai Electricity and Water Authority. This was in 2009. We had participants from 8 countries, 8 cities, 2 countries, 3 locations, and about 30 companies participated in it. So these are the kind of initiatives we keep on working on. I invite all of you to come and subscribe to eGrowth. There are 2 kinds of subscriptions. One is a premium subscription wherein you get access to the curated entrepreneur network. It has a validity of 1 year. And you get access to these expert talks, more replay of more than 500 meetings which are there on YouTube. Network on the portal, as I just shared with you, Facebook group, which has more than 6,000 members, LinkedIn group, which has more than 300 members, and deal. On top of it, you have access to be a part of the eGrowth Inner Circle 2 times. So be there for 1 month. And all this at just 3,000 rupees plus GST for the entire year.
We could help and support in this massive change which is coming, and that would be a request from our side, if that is a possibility, because I think only collaboratively we can grow and help each other grow. So from my side, thank you so much, and we'll be in touch for sure. We'll be in touch and work with you. And we also need to understand what your company is doing, because you did not even explain. When you talk about eGrowth, we didn't hear what you do. You told about the future and the past, but we would like to hear more about you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, please, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Sorry, I just dropped. Yeah. Amit, thanks for filling up.
Yeah, I wrapped up actually.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah, you just finished your point, Atul, and we'll close.
Yeah, and then we also have a structure called the eGrowth Inner Circle. We meet 2 times in a month, which happens on the 2nd and the 4th Friday. We would in fact invite all of you to come and join us this Friday to have a flavor of what Inner Circle is, and then we could take it from there. Yeah, Virendraji.
Please go ahead. So you are finished with it?
Yeah, I would rather not go back to the presentation. Yeah.
Okay, great. So, Mr. Anand Pol, if you want to say a few words, please.
Yeah, just good evening, everybody. I just like to thank Umesh sir for accepting our invitation, and without any hesitation, in one day, in one talk, he accepted our invitation, and he has come today. And the excellent presentation and futuristic things, what is expected, in India, particularly I'm talking about, is definitely brought to our knowledge, and the way in which it is going to happen, and the period is very short. So we have to be ready for gearing up with this innovative things which is going to take place in short future. I once again thank you, sir. And one small request from eGrowth as well as from our side is that whenever we seek your guidance, whenever we seek your support, please allow us to talk to you. Please allow us to approach you, so that we'll be able to have a collaborative discussion, and then there will be few solutions for you as well as for us. Thank you very much, sir.
Right. So thank you everyone for your precious time. Now we say good night and be safe. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Have a great time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. So nice, sir. Thank you. Bye.